I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. I thought I knew my wife, Jessica, inside and out. We'd been together for 5 years, engaged for almost a year now. Things weren't perfect, but I always believed in the foundation we had built. She was smart, beautiful, sometimes bitchy, but in a way that I found charming. We had our fights, sure, but I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. We had just come back from a weekend trip to the coast, and everything seemed normal. She was acting a little more distant than usual, but I just chalked it up to stress from work. Jessica's job in marketing was demanding, and she always had her phone glued to her hand. She'd get tense if I tried to look over her shoulder, and I'd catch her deleting messages sometimes. Little things, nothing concrete. I never suspected anything serious. But I did notice her phone was more secretive than ever. She'd lock it, hide it when I entered the room, that kind of thing. It was annoying, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I figured maybe she was just hiding some work stuff. Or some girl talk with her friends. Then came the honeymoon. We'd planned this trip for months. Our wedding was supposed to be perfect. I'd spent a ton of money, and I was finally getting the chance to relax with her in this beautiful suite overlooking the ocean. But even during those first couple of days, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Jessica was more irritable than usual. She snapped at me for little things, like I was bothering her just by breathing nearby. I caught her sneaking her phone into her purse when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't have the guts to confront her then, not openly, but I was already suspicious. One night, I was sitting on the balcony just staring out at the water, and I decided to check her phone. I'd never done that before, but I felt like I needed proof. I unlocked her phone while she was in the bathroom. That's when I saw it, her messages with Tom. Tom was a guy I knew from work, a friend of ours, but I never thought he'd be part of something like this. The texts were explicit. They were talking about meeting up, about sex, about how they couldn't keep their hands off each other. The timing was perfect. She was texting him from our honeymoon suite. I couldn't believe it. My stomach dropped and everything in my head went silent for a second. I felt dizzy, like the ground underneath me was crumbling. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How could she do this? All those late nights she said she was working late, all those small lies about where she was, and now I knew. She was sneaking around right in front of my face. I wanted to scream, wanted to punch something, but I just sat there, frozen. The worst part is that I didn't even know how long this had been going on. Was it just that night? Had they been texting like this for weeks, months? The betrayal hit me hard. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like all the trust I had was just a lie. I stayed up all night after I found those messages. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept racing. How long had she been cheating? Was I just a fool who never saw the signs? Jessica kept acting like everything was normal, though. She was still bitchy, still snapping at me over the tiniest things, but now I saw her for what she really was, someone capable of hiding a whole secret world, even from me. I was furious, but mostly hurt. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach repeatedly. How could she lie to my face, cheat on me, and then act like nothing happened? The next morning, I decided I couldn't keep quiet. I couldn't pretend everything was okay when I knew the truth. I waited until she was in the shower, then I confronted her. I wasn't gentle about it. I threw the phone on the bed and showed her the messages. I expected her to deny it, to lie through her teeth like she always did, but she didn't. Instead, Jessica's face twisted into a sneer, and she looked me straight in the eyes with that bitchy smirk she always wears when she's trying to act superior. "Oh, so you've been snooping now," she said, flipping her hair. "Wow, you really are insecure, aren't you? Or maybe just paranoid. Maybe you're the one who's been cheating, huh? Maybe I caught you with someone else." Her voice was sharp, full of venom. She denied everything, of course. Said those messages must have been some kind of joke, or that Tom was just a dumb guy who didn't know what he was doing. She threw in all her usual lines, turning everything around so it looked like I was the one in the wrong, that I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure. She even had the audacity to laugh and say, "Maybe if you paid more attention to me instead of spying on my phone, we wouldn't be in this mess." I felt my confidence shattering, but I also felt my anger boiling over. How could she be so callous, so dismissive of my feelings? I told her I saw the texts, and she just shrugged. Said Tom was just a friend, that I was reading too much into it. But I knew better. I knew she was lying, and she knew I knew she was lying. That's what enraged me the most. Her little act, her pretend innocent face while behind my back she was screwing around. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she hurt me, but I couldn't. All I could do was stand there, feeling like I'd been punched in the chest again and again. I realized then that trust, something I thought was unbreakable, was gone. I looked at her, that bitchy smirk still on her face, and I knew I had to decide what I was going to do next. I couldn't keep living like this, not knowing that the woman I loved was capable of such treachery. I felt a mix of sadness, rage, and deep disappointment. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was crumbling before my eyes. After that confrontation, everything changed inside me. I couldn't look at Jessica the same way. Her lies, her dismissiveness, they cut deeper than I ever expected. I started noticing all the small things she did that previously annoyed me, now feeling like glaring signs of her betrayal. The way she avoided my eyes, the way she'd quickly change the subject, even her tone of voice whenever I mentioned trust or honesty. It was like I was living with a stranger, someone who'd been pretending to be the woman I loved, but who had been secretly cheating on me with Tom all along. I couldn't keep this bottled up. I needed a plan, something to make her pay for what she did. I didn't want to just walk away, not after 5 years, not after putting so much into this relationship. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with this, not without some kind of revenge. It was like an instinct I had. Something deep inside told me I had to strike back hard. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling, to understand how betrayed I was. I started thinking about ways to do that, ways to make her regret what she'd done, without just losing my mind completely. I decided the first step was to gather more evidence. I wanted to know exactly how long this had been going on, how deep her lies went. So I started monitoring her movements more closely, sneaking into her phone when she wasn't looking, checking her social media accounts, seeing her messages with other people. I even installed a little app on her phone just to keep an eye on what she was doing without her catching me. It was petty, I know, but I needed to be sure. The more I saw, the more I realized that Tom wasn't just some one-time fling. They'd been texting and sexting for months, maybe even before we got engaged. That hurt worse than I thought possible. Meanwhile, Jessica kept acting like she was the victim, throwing tantrums that I was paranoid, accusing me of spying and obsessing. Her bitchy attitude only fueled my rage. She'd call me insecure, tell me I was overreacting, say that I was the one who was really cheating because I didn't trust her. But I wasn't about to let her bully me into silence anymore. I needed to do something that would hit her hard, something that would make her understand she couldn't bullshit her way out of this. I started working on a plan to expose her, and it all began to take shape in my mind. What I didn't tell anyone, not even my best friend, was that I was already thinking about revenge. Not just a breakup, but something more calculated, something she wouldn't see coming. I knew she'd deny everything, try to spin it like I was the crazy one, but I wanted her to feel the same sting of betrayal I felt, maybe even worse. I wanted her to realize that her actions had consequences, and that a woman like her, so bitchy and manipulative, couldn't just get away with screwing around behind someone's back and acting like she was the victim. That's when I decided I'd give her a taste of her own medicine, even if it meant tearing everything apart in the process. By the time I finished gathering all the evidence, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and dread. I knew exactly how deep her betrayal ran, and I knew I couldn't let her get away with it, not without consequences. My plan was simple but ruthless. I'd confront her again, this time with everything laid out on the table. I wanted her to see the proof, to understand that I finally knew the truth in its entirety. And then I'd make her feel the weight of her lies, something that would leave her shaken, maybe even regretful. So I waited for the right moment. Jessica was still acting bitchy, still playing her manipulative games, but I didn't care. I was calm on the outside, cold on the inside. When she came home that evening, I had everything ready. I told her I needed to talk serious talk. She rolled her eyes, that typical snappy attitude, but I could see that flicker of nervousness behind her eyes. I laid it all out, showed her the messages, explained how I'd seen the texts, how long it had been going on, and how much it hurt. I even played some of the explicit ones I'd saved. Her face turned red, then pale, then she started to stammer. Her reaction was classic Jessica. She instantly began with her usual lies, saying it was just a joke, that Tom was just a friend, that I was reading too much into it. She told me I was crazy, that I was paranoid, and that I shouldn't accuse her without proof. She called me possessive, jealous, insecure, and kept insisting she loved me, that she'd never cheat. When I pressed her further, she started screaming, throwing out accusations of her own. Said I was the one who was cheating, because I was suspicious, because I was spying on her, because I didn't trust her. She looked so bitchy, so full of herself, like she was the victim in all this. It was disgusting. I listened to her, but I wasn't buying anymore. Deep down, I knew she was lying, that she'd been lying from the very beginning. Her whole act was so predictable. I'd seen this before with other girls, those defensive, bitchy defenses they always pull out when they're caught. I told her she could keep lying, that I didn't care anymore, that I was done being played for a fool, that I was leaving. I didn't shout or yell, at least not yet. I just said the words cold and clear. Then I turned to walk out, feeling the crushing weight of betrayal and rage. But Jessica, in her typical bitchy style, wasn't done. She started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, begging me to stay, saying I was the crazy one, accusing me of ruining everything. Her voice was high-pitched, full of that manipulative tone she always used. I looked at her, feeling sick. I realized that she actually wanted me to feel guilty, wanted me to doubt myself. The words she spat out were full of venom, trying to make me feel like I was the one who was wrong, the one who betrayed her. But I couldn't go back. I knew the truth now, and I could unsee it. I was done with her lies. I left, closing the door behind me, feeling like I'd just escaped a toxic nightmare I'd been blind to for way too long. After I walked out that night, everything changed inside me. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. Part of me wanted to feel victorious, to think I finally caught her and would be done with the pain. But another, much darker part knew that the damage was already done. Jessica was a manipulative bitch, and she'd never admit to what she did, not honestly. She'd just keep lying, keep spinning her stories until I was too exhausted to fight anymore. I knew I needed to decide what I was going to do next, and honestly, I wasn't interested in just ending things quietly. I wanted her to realize she couldn't screw me over and walk away unaffected. For the next week, I played it cool, acting like I was considering whether to stay or leave. Inside, I was planning my revenge. I wanted her to see what it felt like to be betrayed, like I did, only in a way she'd never see coming. I started dropping hints, making her think I was going to forgive her, but secretly I was setting up a trap. I contacted some of Tom's friends, learned more about their secret meetings, their plans, and how often they'd been texting. I even found ways to leak some of the evidence I had to a mutual friend of ours, someone I knew she trusted. I wanted her to feel the paranoia, the distrust, to understand she'd lost control of the situation. Meanwhile, Jessica kept playing her manipulative game. She tried to guilt-trip me, telling me I was overreacting, that I was the one who was crazy and insecure. Her bitchy attitude only grew worse, and I could see her trying to turn everyone against me, calling me jealous, unstable, a liar. But I didn't care. Every time she spat her lies, I just smirked inside. I knew the truth, and she couldn't undo what I'd already uncovered. I was already planning my move, the one that would leave her stunned and broken, a lesson she'd never forget. One night, I sent her a message from a burner phone, pretending to be Tom. I told her I was done with Jessica, that I was leaving her because I'd found someone new, someone who appreciated me. I hinted that I knew everything about her texting him, about her lies, and that I wanted to see how she'd react. Her response was classic Jessica. She started crying, denying everything, begging me to listen, to believe her. I could hear her bitchy tone even through the message, trying to manipulate her way out of it. But I knew her game now. I knew she was desperate to hold onto the illusion that she was innocent. That night I realized I had all the cards now. I'd made her doubt herself, made her question her own lies, and most importantly, I'd made her realize she wasn't untouchable. The betrayal had cut deep, but I was about to turn the tables. I wanted her to see that the woman she thought she was, so bitchy, so manipulative, was nothing but a liar and a cheat. I was ready to end this mess once and for all, and I knew that when I did, she'd never forget it. The game was on, and I was going to make damn sure she lost. The day I finally decided to confront her for what I was about to do felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. I had my evidence, my plan, and a clear mind, cold, calculating, and done with the lies. I didn't want her crying or begging anymore. I wanted her to face what she'd created. When she got home that evening, I was waiting in the living room, calm but deadly serious. She looked surprised, maybe even a little nervous, but her bitchy smirk was still there, as if she thought she could manipulate her way out of this one too. I laid everything out on the table, her texts, her secret meetings with Tom, the evidence I'd compiled over the past week. I told her I knew exactly what she'd been doing, how she'd betrayed me, and how her lies had finally caught up with her. I watched her face twist into a mixture of anger, denial, and a desperate need to maintain control. She tried to deny everything at first, saying it was all just a big misunderstanding, that Tom was just a stupid guy, that she never meant for me to find out, but I cut her off. I told her I didn't want her excuses, that I didn't care anymore. I told her that I was done with her manipulations, that I'd wasted enough time trusting a woman who clearly didn't deserve it. I told her that I was leaving permanently, that I wanted her to think about what she'd lost, about the fact that she'd thrown away 5 years of my life for some stupid fling. Her bitchy attitude didn't change. She still had that sneer, that look of superiority, even as her world crumbled around her. She called me all sorts of names, shouted, begged, tried every trick in the book to turn it around. But I wasn't listening anymore. I'd heard enough lies. When I finally walked out the door, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anger. I knew I'd done the right thing, no more lies, no more betrayal. Jessica's manipulative bitch attitude had come full circle and she'd been exposed for who she really was. I didn't look back. I knew I'd heal eventually, or at least move past this nightmare. But one thing was clear. I'd learned a lot about trust, about how some people can pretend to be something they're not, and most importantly, about not letting anyone, especially someone you love, get away with tearing you apart. In the end, I realized that revenge isn't about destroying someone just for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming your dignity when someone else tries to take it away. Jessica's betrayal taught me that even the bitchiest, most manipulative women can't hide the truth forever, and when they finally do, the fallout can be brutal. I've moved on, and I've learned that sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that leave the deepest scars, and the most important ones.